Admiral Richard E. Byrd allegedly wrote about his encounter with a lost civilization during his expedition to the North and South Poles. According to his secret entry, he met the ancient alien race underground and witnessed a huge base with animals and plants previously thought to have been extinct. He's talking like even mammoth-like creatures. Allegedly, the Byrd plane was commandeered mid-air and was landed for him by people who lived in the center of the Earth, who intercepted his plane with saucer-shaped aircrafts. Upon landing, he was met by emissaries of a civilization that many folks assume to be the mythical Agartha, which we'll talk about more about in a moment. These alleged Agarthans expressed their concern about humanity's use of atomic weapons during the big mass extinction event that we all know about, and they employed Byrd as their ambassador to return to the US government and relay their opinions. So the general was actually ordered to remain silent on what he had witnessed during this Arctic assignment by the government. He wrote this in his diary on March 11th of 1947, saying he had just attended a staff meeting at the Pentagon and stated fully his discovery and his message from the master. So everything was duly recorded and the president was advised, but then he was detained for like 7 hours, or 6 hours, 39 minutes to be exact. He was being interviewed very severely by top security forces and a medical team, and he described it as an ordeal. He was then placed under strict control via the national security provisions of the United States of America. And he wrote this in all caps. "I am ordered to remain silent in regard to all that I have learned on the behalf of humanity. Incredible, I am reminded that I am a military man and I must obey orders." But like, okay folks, once again, government cover-ups? Not good. So according to the official record, Antarctica was discovered in 1820, but it took almost 100 years for modern explorers to reach there. Surely it can't be true that nobody before had known about this part of our planet. Christopher Columbus used ancient maps for navigation throughout his expeditions, but I don't think it was a coincidence that he only traveled to other continents. There are several ancient world maps made hundreds of years ago that clearly show Antarctica in its enormous form. Turkish Admiral Piri Reis's 1500 map baffled researchers because, like, you can see Antarctica, but there's no ice. And he claimed to have used earlier sources and compiled them into one map. Well, American author Charles Hapgood began studying this specific map in the middle of the 20th century and published a book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings. I think it was published in 1966. And he claimed this and other maps support a theory of a global exploration by a pre-classical undiscovered civilization. So he supported this with an analysis of the mathematics of ancient maps and of their accuracy, which he said surpassed instrumentation available at the time of the map's drafting. So he argued that owing to the map being assembled from components, the Caribbean section was rotated nearly 90 degrees from the top of the South America. So he's like, maybe this was either from copying a polar projection or to fit in the space available by hinging the map at that location and giving it an alternate north, of which other examples are known in maps of that era. But, and this is where we all come in today, ancient astronaut theorists are very curious about the pyramid-like structure near the Shackleton Mountain range on the icy continent. Satellite images show the pyramid has 4 steep sides, kind of like the Great Pyramids of Giza. Well, in the popular TV show Ancient Aliens, author David Childress said it could be the oldest pyramid on Earth built by the ancient civilization. He said if the gigantic pyramid in Antarctica is an artificial structure, it would probably be the oldest pyramid on the planet. And in fact, it might be the master pyramid that all other pyramids on the planet Earth were designed to look like. So one theory suggests that in the distant past, Antarctica was a habitable place, and there lived one of the oldest civilizations on Earth. We're talking pre-Sumerian, pre-ancient Egyptian, and it possibly could be the lost civilization of Atlantis. Because there's a lot of folks that believe that the existence of Atlantis is associated with Antarctica and associated with ancient aliens. Look, Plato was the first person to write about the lost city, and he described it as an island situated far in the Atlantic Ocean. So it could have been there. In 1959, a Soviet expedition based on the Mirny Polar Station in Antarctica sent a group of 8 researchers deep into the uncharted continent, and the group's goal was to reach the South Magnetic Pole. Well, only 3 people returned from that group that was dispatched, and according to the official version, the cause of the tragedy was severe frost, a storm, all-terrain vehicle engine failure. But later on, Soviet polar explorer Yuri Kushinov, in a conversation with a reporter, was like, no. I was one of the people that returned from the trip to the magnetic pole, and according to him, the group was attacked by luminous flying objects resembling discs, and an attempt to photograph an anomalous phenomenon kinda ended poorly. because the cameras were destroyed by a beam sent from a flying object. Folks who tried to repel the attack using hunting rifles were also struck by the rays from that object and passed away. So the reporter didn't have time to publish the collected materials because Yuri passed away really fast after he talked about this. In 1970, the United States Environmental Science Service Administration, or ESSA, to save me some time here, published satellite photos of the North Pole, where one photo showed a perfectly rounded hole over the Arctic. And that's kind of only added more to a lot of beliefs of underground civilizations that go back to ancient aliens. Once again, that whole Agartha theory that they're here, they've been here, they're just hanging out where we don't go. Russian cosmonaut Ivan Wagner, who now works on the ISS, posted a video with orbiting UFOs on his Twitter account back in 2020. So in the video, the unidentified objects appear, quickly fly from left to right, and disappear after a couple of seconds. So it looks like maybe there's several UFOs lined up in a straight line, or one object with several shining lights on its body. And if it's one object, then it's cigar-shaped, which matches a lot of other UFOs we've seen. They've been repeatedly spotted in the sky, and they're considered an alien base from which smaller ships fly out. Wagner tweeted, "At 9 to 12 seconds, 5 objects appear, flying alongside with the same distance. What do you think? Meteors, satellites, or..." I'm gonna go with the "or" here, folks. A groundbreaking initiative has been spearheaded by Dr. Stephen M. Greer, a renowned founder of the Disclosure Project and a respected authority on UFO and UAP phenomena. Dr. Greer made an exceptional presentation in June of 2023 at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., unveiling compelling evidence having to do with covert and unauthorized black budget projects associated with UFO operations. So for over 33 years, he's been working as a volunteer on the Disclosure Project. And the last time he conducted an event was back in 2001, where 22 individuals from different government sectors joined in. So in this recent 3-hour-long event, Dr. Greer presented his investigations on these secret programs. It was joined by 6 very courageous whistleblowers who shared very compelling information about covert operations. In all of this, I think the most compelling testimony came from one Eric Heckner, a former Raytheon contractor who spent a year at the South Pole. He began his testimony by explaining his role as a tradesman and firefighter and emphasized that the technology there, particularly the ice cube neutrino detector, serves purposes beyond what is publicly disclosed. So he was selected to go down to the South Pole Station in Antarctica in 2010, and he spent an entire year by the Raytheon Polar Services as an employee of a third-party contractor for the National Science Foundation. And he presented documentation indicating that there are over 5,000 embedded digital optical modules in the ice that can transmit at over 2,000 volts each. And this revelation kind of suggests that the neutrino detector possesses capabilities far beyond passive listening, effectively functioning as a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform. Its size and power suggested it could be used for deep space or quantum communications with spacecrafts traveling throughout our solar system and beyond. Hecker revealed to a Dr. Michelle Sala in an interview that each DOM, for short, has the capacity to transmit so much that it makes it the world's largest phased array transmitter. So then this all led us to Dr. Greer because it aligns with the concepts he presents regarding directed energy weapons and communication devices for ships traveling faster than the speed of light. So this detector serves as a communication device for intergalactic communication. And as somebody who experienced this firsthand, he affirms that something's happening, and he's out there to raise awareness and provide a path towards uncovering the truth. He further elaborated on the various functions of the South Pole Station. Allegedly, it works as an air traffic control station for off-world craft, including extraterrestrial and human-made vehicles that emit neutrinos. So the facility enables faster-than-light communications, which is kind of crucial for interstellar travel. He referenced Gary McKinnon's past hacking of NASA, revealing the existence of an off-world fleet, and the South Pole Station is instrumental in facilitating such communications. According to Italian researcher Roberto Pinotti, he believes the first modern aliens arrived in Italy rather than America. Apparently, the first aliens did not emerge from the wreckage at Roswell, and forget about them hanging around Alien 51. Roberto has been investigating a rumored UFO crash in Italy from back in the 1930s, and he's been doing the study since 1996, which was before I was born. And in more recent years, somebody mailed him some strange documents anonymously. Hey, chuckle all you want, but we tend to give anonymous whistleblowers the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise around here. No, this corner of the interwebs. These records revealed attempts to conceal the occurrence. Now, the researcher is the National UFOlogical Center's president and claims to have proof not just of the 1933 UFO crash, but also of a secret department established by Benito Mussolini, the famous former dictator of Italy. If you couldn't guess, this was to investigate the rumored UFO. According to the researcher, an unidentified flying object fell near Milan, RS-1 33 was the name of the research team, and Guglielmo Marconi was in charge. For those who are unfamiliar, especially since I probably butchered his first name, I apologize, I speak French, not Italian. He was the inventor of the radio and a supporter of Mussolini's fascist administration. According to a quote from Pinotti in an interview, in 1996, his colleague Alfredo Lusoni and himself began investigating the story of the 1933 UFO crash in Lombardy when they received some original secret documents about said case. The documents were obtained from someone who claimed to have inherited them from a family member, and this family member allegedly worked with Mussolini's RS-33. I know, you're probably asking right now, hey Alexa, what were the contents of the documents? 2 telegrams written in Italian in June of 1933, if I'm being exact. One requested absolute silence over an alleged landing on national soil of unknown aircraft, while another issued orders for immediate arrest and maximum penalties against anyone reporting on aircraft of unknown nature and origin on June 13th. According to the Daily Mail, this was the personal order of Mussolini. The UFO, according to Roberto, was kept in a hangar near Milan, and this lasted until the Allies seized control of Italy during the Second World War. The UFO was then captured and returned to the United States by American troops. I could go on a whole separate tangent about alien tech, Second World War theories, and America covering up alien spawnings around the world, but we'd be here all night. Nevertheless, that all seems mighty suspicious to me. Anyone else? Okie dokie. Time to throw an imaginary dart at the wall and see what we land on next. Good old Scientology. So this is a set of beliefs and practices invented by the American author L. Ron Hubbard, who developed a set of ideas he called Dianetics, which he represented as a form of therapy. Yeah, emphasis on the air quotes here. The organization that he established in 1950 to promote it went bankrupt, and then he lost the rights to his book in 1952. But he then recharacterized his ideas as religion for tax purposes and renamed them Scientology. If you know, you know. By 1954, he had regained the rights to Dianetics and founded the Church of Scientology, which remains the largest organization promoting Scientology. There are practitioners independent of the church in what is called the Free Zone. Estimates put the number of Scientologists at just under 40,000 worldwide. Not a lot of people. Scientology beliefs include reincarnation and that traumatic events cause problematic engrams in the mind. The belief that an activity called auditing can remove the bad engrams. Oh, and you're charged a fee for each session because they gotta make their money somehow. Once an auditor deems an individual free of engrams, typically after several years, they're given the status of clear. Now, after being deemed clear, adherents can take part in further activities called operating thetan levels, which require further payments. Hey, somebody's gotta pay Tom Cruise. The operating thetan texts are kept secret from most followers and revealed only after adherents have typically given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Scientology organization. If you don't have ridiculous amounts of money to burn, don't worry, they're freely available online on sites such as WikiLeaks. And if you don't want to waste your time, these texts say past lives took place in extraterrestrial cultures. I don't agree with Scientology, but I do agree with aliens visiting Earth, or else we wouldn't be here today. They involve an alien called Xenu, described as a planetary ruler 70 million years ago who brought billions of aliens to Earth and killed them with thermonuclear weapons. Despite being kept secret from most followers, this forms the central mythological framework of Scientology's, psyche. It makes sense, I swear. From soon after the formation, all of the Scientology groups have generated considerable amounts of opposition and controversy, mostly because of illegal activities. In 1967, Hubbard established a new elite group, the Sea Organization, or Sea Org, the membership of which was drawn from the most committed members of the church. Now by 1981, 21-year-old, at the time, David Miscavige, who had been one of, big guy's closest second-in-commands, rose to prominence. Hubbard died at his ranch in Creston, California in January of 1986, and Miscavige succeeded him as the head of the church, a position he holds till this day. Now he's done a lot of shady stuff, but we're not going to touch on that today. I talked about it ad nauseum. The Church of Scientology has been described by government inquiries, international parliamentary bodies, scholars, law lords, and numerous superior court judges as both a dangerous cult and a manipulative profit-making business. I could talk for, hours and hours about how awful they are, but the most important thing is that, we share a belief, ancient aliens coming to Earth, educating everybody. Alrighty, this is something that has always stumped me, so we're gonna move along, but let's just think about this for a moment. The graffiti inside the Great Pyramids. Yes, I'm gonna explain. In the heart of the city of El Giza stands the Giza Pyramid Complex, also known as the Necropolis. This architectural marvel contains 3 pyramids: the Pyramid of Khafre, the Pyramid of Menkaure, and of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza. I'd like to visit there someday, ideally. Though each was created for a different pharaoh, many historians are convinced that their collective design is cohesive and intentional, as the arrangement of these structures is possibly a representation of the Orion constellation. The complex's crown jewel is though, the Great Pyramid. We've all heard about it, we all know it, we all love it. Most believe that it was erected under the watchful eye of the great pharaoh Khufu to be a tomb where the king would complete his transformation into a god in the afterlife. Standing 146.7 meters high and stretching 234.4 meters wide, it looms above everything around it. It was assembled from 2.5 million stone blocks, some of which came from over 500 miles away, which is particularly amazing when you consider that they didn't have the use of wheels at the time and that construction took only 20 years. Look, if that sounds like a lot to anybody, try living in Toronto where construction takes that long to renovate a single road. Whoever designed and built the pyramids had incredibly detailed knowledge and architectural skill. When completed, the pyramid towered over the city, and its corners aligned almost exactly with the points of a compass. In general, Egyptians often oriented structures to true north quite precisely, likely using stars such as Polaris to orient their work, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. The origins and composition of the Great Pyramid, our oldest wonder of the world and its slightly less famous kin, have long confounded scholars. How did engineers manage to achieve all of this so fast? Well, nobody knows. Genuinely, nobody has any idea, well, with absolute certainty that is. While some believe that construction workers may have used large ramps to transport the stones, this theory has been largely disproven because there's not a lot of archaeological evidence to support the claim. So, this is where our lovely ancient aliens come into play. They must have helped. I'm not saying they did all the work, that would be discrediting the incredible workers from history. But it's true that it would have been difficult for humans to build the pyramids. And there is missing history about how they were built. A lot of folks have proposed that aliens came to Earth in ancient times just help kickstart civilization. They're not responsible for all of it. Well, I don't think so anyways. But they just gave us a little nudge. A helping hand, if you will. According to these theories, the aliens were instrumental in helping ancient Egyptians build their masterpieces. Believers like us kind of argue that in order to design the pyramids as they are, you'd kind of want a bird's eye view. The kind that could be provided from, I don't know, flying saucer? Also, in order to create an object that obeys a so-called golden ratio, a mathematical relationship based on 5, the Egyptians might have wanted some help from outside sources. Look, this theory has persisted to today. It's still going. We all talk about this. Let's go back to 2001. Russian scientist Dr. Viktor Ivanovich claimed that the KGB had found ancient alien remains inside the Great Pyramid. Hey, it's got quite the inner network of shafts, passageways, and chambers that is so intricate that it's not hard to understand why people believe that some sort of divinity or superintelligence could be involved. Also, the only hieroglyphs inside are graffiti, alleged to be left behind by those who worked on the structure as a signature, which only further supports my theory on the aliens only knowing that to communicate with us by. I've talked about this theory time and time again, but like time capsules, the pyramids are physical symbols of ancient wisdom. Look, they're made of glittering golden limestone, and they always remain around a cool 20 degrees centigrade inside, which provides glimpses of an ancient society that once neared the kind of technological intelligence we possess today. Who knows? Maybe in 2,000 years, historians will speculate about the extraterrestrial origins of our fallen civilization, and maybe by then they'll be able to consult them for help. Next up, stories from the Ramayana. In Hindu mythology, the gods and their avatars travel from place to place in flying vehicles called vimana. There are many mentions of these flying objects in the Ramayana, which used by the king Ravana from Sri Lanka dates to the 5th or 4th century BCE. Obviously, I do have some examples. So from Book 6, The Magic Car, is not the wondrous chariot mine, named Pushpak, wrought by hands divine. This chariot, kept with utmost care, will waft thee through the fields of air, and thou shalt light unwearied down in fair Ayodhya's royal town. From the departure, swift through the air, as Rama chose, the wondrous car from earth arose, and decked with swans and silver wings, bore through the clouds its fright of kings. Eric von Daniken discusses the Ramayana and Vimanas in chapter 6, Chariots of the Gods, suggesting that they were space vehicles. To support his hypothesis, he offers a quotation, which he says is from an 1889 translation of the Mahabharata by C. Roy. Bhima flew with his Vimana on an enormous ray, which was as brilliant as the sun and made a noise like the thunder of a storm. The existence of the text was revealed in 1952 by G.R. Joycer, who asserted that it was written by Pandit Subbaraya Shastri, who dictated it during the years between 1918 to 23. A Hindi translation was published in 1959, while the Sanskrit text with an English translation was published in 73. It contains a lot of information in which Shastri claimed was psychically delivered to him by the ancient Hindu sage Bahajava. This text tends to be great proof for those of us who believe in ancient astronauts, otherwise known as the Anunnaki, which brings me to my next and final point. Seriously, did you think I was going to end today without going more in depth about the Anunnaki? Please! It's often suggested that the Anunnaki possessed the technology to either fly, either within our atmosphere, or between planets. Ancient depictions of winged gods or flying discs get cited as evidence. Which kind of support modern day UFO theories and beliefs, something I believe in. Depictions of modern craft found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs have been hailed as proof of an advanced alien civilization visiting our ancestors, which is believed to be none other than the Anunnaki. For folks like us, hieroglyphs, yep, you heard me, appearing to resemble planes and helicopters in artwork done thousands of years ago, kind of makes us believe that ancient Egyptians were visited by the aliens. Look, if ancient civilizations were putting helicopters and modern spacecrafts in their artwork, they had to have some idea where that was coming from. They had to see it somewhere. Or they had really great imaginations, but that kind of makes sense to me. Look, some folks even go so far as to believe that all or some humans are either descendants or creations of extraterrestrial intelligence, because they just landed on Earth and decided to repopulate. An associated idea is that human knowledge, religion, and culture came from extraterrestrial visitors way back when, so the Anunnaki acted as some sort of a mother culture. The evidence for ancient astronauts comes from documentary gaps in history and archaeological records, while citing archaeological artifacts that are believed to be beyond the technical capabilities of the people who made them. While I don't completely agree with that theory, there are elements of it that you can't explain otherwise. These are referred to as out-of-place artifacts and include quite a bit of artwork that it makes sense. And that brings us to the end of our time, and once again, I stand by my theory that we'd be chatting with ancient aliens a lot more if we used hieroglyphs more frequently. Alrighty, how about we kick off today with old footage of a UFO flying near an airplane, and it's a clip that's always been an element of heated debate amongst UFO enthusiasts. So this 19-second footage, which is often claimed to be a clip of a lengthier video, shows a round, saucer-shaped object hovering near an airplane and then moving forward, maneuvering below the aircraft wing, and then flying upward. Apparently, it's a screen recording of the actual video, and there's a lot of theories about the origin of said clip. It was published on the internet several times in the late 2000s, and it's kind of difficult to figure out its origin date. Now, the earliest source of the video is YouTube. It was uploaded by a user on March 6th of 2008 with the caption UFO from plane. The user described that the UFO was captured from the window of a blue panorama flight from Rome to Paris, allegedly on April 29th of 2006. But then there's other sources that are like, no, this was from the 1990s, saying clear evidence of military tested saucer reproductions over US skies around Nevada desert. The footage is a late 90s recording, very short as the full video is now offline altogether. So, with all this hullabaloo, has the video been debunked? A lot of folks who claim to be working in the aviation field found the video too good to be true, but they couldn't provide a valid explanation for it being fake. Now, a lot of folks are like, okay, but it's computer generated. And then CGI experts were like, yeah, no, I don't think so. Let me know what you think in the comments. On August 18th, 1991, at around 10 p.m., Diane Labinek of West Carleton, Ontario, Canada, had just put her descendants to bed, and her husband was out running an errand, and the dog started to howl. So Diane investigated, and she witnessed something she just couldn't explain. To quote her, "I looked out the window and I saw flames in the field, extremely red flames and lots of smoke, but it didn't look like a fire. I know what a fire looks like when you start a fire out there when the grass is very dry, and if you start a fire it's going to move this way or closer to the woods, but this was staying in one spot. She saw a ship coming down close to the flames, and right on top of the ship she saw a blue flashing light, and another light was on the bottom, and it was very bright, and she didn't know what to do. She was looking at it for about 10 minutes, and then the ship went back a little bit over the trees, and then it disappeared, and then the flames all went out at the same time. And she's like, I don't want to see it again. It was scary. She's lived where she's lived for many, many years, and she's never been so scared in her life. Now, at first she was like, maybe I should call the police, but then she's like, well, what am I going to tell them? I'm going to tell them I saw flames out there past 10 o'clock at night, and there was a ship. And they were going to say, oh, okay, Diane, that's fine. We're going to take care of things. So she's like, no. According to Diane, apparently 10 minutes after the lights blinked out, a helicopter appeared, flew low to the ground over the field where all the unexplained lights had been. After crisscrossing the area, passed over Diane's house and disappeared into the night. Now, the next morning, Diane went out to explore, see if she could find anything. But zilch, zippo. No marks, no spots, no matches, just nothing. Now, she told her mom and her husband, but nothing. It just sort of bothered her in her brain for a very long, long time. She didn't want to tell anybody. She didn't want to be labeled a crank. But she was like, who's gonna believe me? She kept it to herself. So fast forward 6 months, February of 1992, a package from Canada arrived at the office of Bob Oshler, one of the more popular UFO researchers at the time. The package had no return address, but inside there were some documents, pictures, a map, and a videotape of the incident. Now, according to Bob, on the label there was the name Guardian, and it was accompanied by a fingerprint. Now, to him, it was an enigma. It had certainly nothing he'd ever heard about in UFO literature, so this was a mystery. Now, at the time, Bob had no idea about Diane's sightings, but the video accurately showed what she reported seeing. The tape showed a cluster of brightly burning red flames, similar to flares, and to the right hovered a dark disc-like object emitting a bright glow from its underside, and it was capped by a rapidly strobing blue light. To Bob, the tape looked real. He's like, I got a sense that this was a real event occurring in a field, as opposed to some prop set up in a room somewhere. He's like, okay, I think I'm dealing with something real here. The map that was included in the package directed Bob to, you guessed it, West Carleton, Ontario. So he asked his buddy, Graham Lightfoot, to join him, and when they interviewed Diane, she described exactly what was on the videotape, and she had not seen the tape. She had no idea that Bob knew what she knew, and she was able to describe things to a T that were included on the tape. Now we're gonna bring in Dr. Bruce Maccabee, who is a US Navy physicist and photo analyst, and he studied UFOs for years, and he's like, it is one of the clearest videos he's ever seen that shows a structured object. There's the beacon light, blue light, reflecting down on the body of the craft, the outline of the object itself, and you can see some sort of dark lines that appear, some brightness structure, indicating something generating light is hanging down below the object. It's also generating green light as well as blue light, and he believes the tape is not a fraud. He estimates the object to be 20 to 30 feet in diameter, and according to Bob, that's too big to be a hoax. He's like, it's so big that it would not be logical to try and set this all up at night under darkness. There would have been evidence during the day of movement of generators, somebody hauling cables, maybe some big thing that would have had to be brought in. So if there was a hoax, Diane would have seen something in advance or somebody packing something up afterwards. Also, people did audio analysis on the tape. All they heard was dogs. The craft itself seemed to be silent. There was no generator noise. And if the object was staged, that would have been necessary to run its massive lights. Ask any film set person ever. We're gonna bring in Dr. Robert Nathan. He's an expert when it comes to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. He reviewed the tape in a non-official capacity and he's like, yeah, no, not a hoax. And after the incident, low-flying helicopters cruised over that area on a regular basis. They were black, green, or maroon in color, unmarked, and had darkly tinted windows. And those are not Canadian military helicopters. Where they came from, what they were searching for, remains a mystery. According to an expert from the Canadian Forces, it's like, nope, Canadian military helicopters don't fly low in that area, and that doesn't match. Look, I'm just hoping the Guardian comes forward at some point and gives us a little more context. The butterfly UFO was a strange flying craft spotted over the Ohio-Kentucky border by two men, father and son duo Tom and Christopher, as they were leaving a local restaurant. The craft appeared to be a large black craft that resembled a butterfly in shape, and upon zooming in on the photo, it's revealed that there's numerous glowing structures on the back of the craft. Tyler Glockner, who has been hosting the video on his paranormal-themed YouTube channel called Secure Team, is pretty adamant that the object is not something that could have been built by humans. Tyler claims that the duo who filmed the clip were unable to photograph the military helicopters which tailed the craft since they were going the other way. Look, I can't explain this craft myself. It's like nothing I've ever seen before out of a sci-fi flick. But once again, those weird military helicopters. Pattern of behavior, folks. How could I talk about today without mentioning the world's clearest UFO photo ever? It was taken approximately 30 years ago by two hikers in the Scottish Highlands. It was titled Calvine Photograph, and the negatives were handed over to Scotland's Daily Record newspaper. They in turn did their due diligence, sent it to the Ministry of Defense, and now nobody knows where they are. So according to reports, the photograph was captured on August 4th of 1990, around 35 miles northwest of Perth, close to Calvine. The hikers who spotted the flying object have remained unknown to this day. I don't blame them. The image shows a huge diamond-shaped object hovering in the sky with a smaller plane flying behind it. Now, according to those eyewitness accounts, the UFO hovered in the air for about 10 minutes before heading upwards and disappearing. It was around 100 feet in length, and that's all we know. Interesting. And finally, folks raised their voices when footage captured by pilot George Arteaga surfaced online. The object flies past the plane at high speed, seemingly defying the laws of physics, and the pilot managed to capture the UFO in surprisingly clear footage. Now, folks like me, who are like, ooh, footage, we've been pretty excited because, well, it shows an object appearing against the clear blue sky. You see this diamond-shaped thing, and it's 20,000 feet up. Now, while it could be a drone or another man-made object, I don't think so. UFO enthusiast The Hidden Underbelly posted the clip to YouTube and added the caption, "In this footage, we get a clear view of this object and it looks damn good. Seems to be a saucer-shaped craft." So, this clip has been viewed by millions of people, and the pilot alleged that he caught this glimpse when he was flying over Antioquia, Colombia. People online are regarding the video as the best UFO footage ever. Granted, yes, there are some skeptics, because when are there not? Somebody in the app formerly known as Twitter was like, I think it's just a balloon. It's just, it's not even moving. Or it's just an illusion from being in the plane. But like, I don't know, folks. Somebody else was like, oh, it's a Navy drone. Because, yes, military sometimes has stuff that we don't know about. A lot of folks also thought, maybe it's just a helium balloon. Now, I watched this clip. I watched it a couple of times. I don't think it's a balloon because it seemed much too solid at the altitude it was at, wasn't fluttering around. So let me know in the comments what you think.